One of the more pivotal draft classes in the last few years is 2023 because at the top you had the main guy, Victor Wembanyama, but we really didn't know who was going to be a stud or a dud throughout the rest of the NBA draft. And there were some really good picks inside the top 10, some really bad picks inside the top 10, and then same thing outside the top 10 where some teams really changed the course of their franchise for good and for bad. And we're seeing some of these guys on display in the 2026 NBA playoffs. I regraded the 2024 draft earlier this year, so I thought it'd be a good time to regrade the 2023 draft now, about 2 years later. And like always, you can let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. If you do enjoy these style of videos, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know if you want to see this with 2022. So at the top, we're going to start with Victor Wembanyama. This one hasn't really aged. I'm just kidding. This is like the greatest draft pick that we are going to see in quite some time. It was the easiest draft pick to make because this pick was known pretty much in like October before that year even started. It's getting an A+ from me. Victor Wembanyama has somehow exceeded his expectations that were already sky high going into his rookie season and for what his NBA career could be. He finished the season with 25 points, 11.5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 51% from the field, 35% from 3, 82% from the free throw line. He led the Spurs to a 60-win season as the #1 option. Ever since he's been drafted, he's basically been the best defensive player in the NBA. He fell just short in his rookie season, winning the Depoy Award to Rudy Gobert, one of the greatest defenders in NBA history, and would have won it in year number 2 if he played 65 games. He won it this year. He's led the NBA in blocks every single year since entering the league, and he's 22 years old. If you make a top 25 under 25, if you're doing a fantasy draft stripping down the NBA right now and you're building a team and you have the #1 pick to build around, it's all going to be Victor Wembanyama at the top. He's a true generational superstar, and he's already a top 5 player in the league. And who knows, if San Antonio goes to the NBA Finals this year, there's an argument that he could be the best player in the world. It took him 5 playoff games to set the playoff record for blocks in a game. It's just incredible what he does every single night. He's a true alien-like player, and that's his nickname. And yeah, this one is getting an A+. So next up, we have Brandon Miller going to the Charlotte Hornets, and maybe last year this could have been in the B range, but I think it's definitely gone up to an A- right now. Unfortunately, Brandon Miller is having offseason shoulder surgery again, which is a common theme for him, and he's had some really bad shoulder issues so far since getting drafted, but I believe this is an A-. Miller has definitely proven to be the right selection by the Charlotte Hornets at number 2, because when we get to number 3, it wasn't the easiest decision to select Brandon Miller second overall on the night of the 2023 draft. He was a freshman coming out of Alabama where he averaged 19 points in 2023 for the Crimson Tide. He was a really good scorer right away. He finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting behind Wemby and Chet Holmgren. Year 2 was kind of like a wash. He only appeared in 27 games as like a #1 option as a 22-year-old, and he wasn't the best in those 22 games. This year, though, Miller played 65 games. He shot 38% from 3 on 8 attempts a night, 43% from the field. I'd like to say be a little bit better on 2s, 48% from 2-point range, but 89% from the free throw line on 3.5 attempts a night, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Was a part of one of the best offenses in the NBA this year in Charlotte, and they're going to probably give him a rookie max extension or close to it this offseason. We'll see if that's going to age well or not, but I think right now this pick is worth an A-. So Scoot Henderson goes number 3, and this was the guy that I thought the Charlotte Hornets should have taken number 2. I've said that a million times here on the channel. Scoot, though, we just saw him have a little bit of a breakthrough in the playoffs. So in his first career playoff game for Portland, he has 18 points. In his second career playoff game, he drops 31 points in a Trailblazers win, 21 points in game 3, and I'm like, all right, this is the Scoot Henderson that I saw at the G League Ignite. And then he gets 0 points in game number 4 and 0 of 7 shooting, 5 points in game 5 on 2 and 6 shooting. I'm like, all right, it's fine. You're going up against Fox, Harper, Castle, some really good perimeter defenders. Unfortunately, though, Scoot has had a rocky career so far. That's why I'm putting a C letter grade on this, because I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Scoot's going to be on this team in a few years. I don't even think he's going to get a rookie extension this offseason. I think it makes sense for both parties to wait, but they're bringing back Damian Lillard next year. They still have Drew Holiday and Shaedon Sharpe. I don't know if there's going to be a path for Scoot Henderson to still get double-digit shots a night next year, especially if he doesn't perform out of the gate, because there's going to be a higher expectation for Portland with Dame returning and then making the playoffs this year to try to capitalize on that. And Scoot was never really a consistent starter under Chauncey Billups. That felt like Billups was just going back and forth with his development, and he ended up averaging 14 points this year, 3.5 assists in just 30 games because he had a severe hamstring injury, which didn't allow him to debut until the second half of the season. He's still just 22 years old. He could still be a really good scoring guard in this league, but right now I have to give it a C. That might be generous, to be honest honest with you, because when you're drafted 3rd overall, you're held to a higher standard. And when you see what went after Scoot, those two guys that are related, it makes you think, okay, what if Portland went in a different direction? So for all the gripes you may have about Amen Thompson, he's been clearly a better player than Scoot Henderson so far. I'm giving this one an A-. He's 23 years old. He definitely had a rocky playoff run this year against the Los Angeles Lakers. He played really good in games 3 and 4, but what we saw in the regular season was on display in the playoffs. You can leave him open on the perimeter. He does not want to shoot the ball at all. He shot 53% from the field this year. 21% on threes, 57% on twos, 78% from the free throw line, which is encouraging because that has gone up about 9 percentage points from the previous 2 seasons. 18 points, 5 assists a night. He's going to end up on an all-defensive team this year, most likely. He was an all-defensive first-team member in 2025, and he is a defensive stud out there. Amen Thompson is one of the best athletes in the NBA, 6'7", 200 pounds. He could guard your best player every single night and also give you 18, 8, and about 5. That is extremely valuable. Now with the modern day and how reliant teams are on floor spacing and 3-point shooting, that's where Amen Thompson gets downgraded a little bit. It's hard to predict who's going to get more between Thompson and Brandon Miller this offseason. I think these guys definitely have their question marks about their long-term future, and I think Wemby is just in a completely different tier than everybody else, so I'm giving this pick an A- as well. Might be a hot take, but I'm also going to give Ausar Thompson an A-. Now Ausar definitely had a little bit of a slower start than Amen Thompson, and then he also had this blood clot going into year number 2, but I thought Ausar was great this year for the 1-seeded Detroit Pistons. He was a finalist for the Defensive Player of the Year award, which means he finished 3rd in that voting. He led the NBA in steals with 2 a night. He had about a block a night. He was pulling up about 6 rebounds, 3 assists, which is encouraging, 52% from the field in 26 minutes a night. Now, yeah, he only averaged 9.9 points per game, but he's such a defensive stud, and what I'm seeing from him in the playoffs on the Eastern Conference side of the bracket, I think warrants an A- as well. I could see him getting a similar amount to what his brother is going to get. I would still expect Amen Thompson to make a little bit more on their rookie extension, because that's why I wanted to make this video. All these guys are extension eligible this offseason, so I thought it was a very pivotal time to talk about this draft class as a whole. Ausar has definitely been probably the 2nd most impactful player for the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs, definitely more than Jalen Duren, who is maybe that number 2 throughout the regular season. I think Ausar Thompson's impact also goes way further than the box score, help defense, screen setting, and just on-ball defense as a whole. He's forcing guys to miss shots left and right. He's forcing guys not to take shots because of how much of a nightmare matchup he is as a defender. I think this warrants an A- as well. So we have Anthony Black here at number 6, who definitely got off to a slower start in his career. We saw a little bit of a breakthrough this year. I'm going to give this one a B, though. I don't want to be too reactionary to that stretch we saw in the regular season because it was still inconsistent at times. Now he played 64 games, started 40 of them, but yeah, you missed 18 games this year. That's a decent amount for somebody at 22 years old. He shot 44% from the field, 33% from 3, which is encouraging from how poorly he shot in 2025, but it's still a question mark in his game. He shot 51% on twos. He shot 73% from the free throw line, which isn't great. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 steals tonight. Like all these guys, he's extension eligible, and I really wonder what Orlando is going to do with him this offseason, because can he be better than Jalen Suggs or Desmond Bane in your long-term plans? Is he warrant a new 4 to 5 year extension, and you're going to make Anthony Black your franchise guard in that backcourt? Because I don't think he's good enough of a ball handler or a passer right now to be your full-time point guard. Is he going to be good enough of a perimeter shooter to be a solid enough wing out there with Paolo and Franz, some guys that do have some question marks with their outside shot? So there is so many question marks about Anthony Black's fit in Orlando. I think he's a good player. That's why I'm giving this a B. But I do think they have to figure some things out, and that might be trading somebody else and then giving Black that extension and then insert him to the starting lineup next year. Number 7 was Bilal Coulibaly to the Washington Wizards, and poor Bilal, he got drafted by one of the worst teams in 2024, and they've pretty much been the worst team in the NBA ever since they drafted him. Bilal has lost a lot of games in his career. He averaged 8 points as a rookie, went up to 12 points in 2025, back down to 11 points in 2026. Now, Bilal was hurt going into the year, but he was definitely inefficient at the start of the season. He started to come alive a little bit more in the month of March, which is always something you have to take with a grain of salt, because you're seeing guys drop triple doubles like Ryan Rupert or Jemai Meshack left and right. Shout out to Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to give this pick a C+. Now, I think his defense is doing a lot of the work here in this grade. I think his offense has left a lot to be desired for. He's still just 21 years old. The only thing with him now in Washington, as they're about to bring in another top 10 pick, they're hoping a top 4 pick in this draft that's most likely going to be a perimeter player. You added Trae Young, Anthony Davis, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Cam Whitmore over the last few years, which is now bumping down Bilal Coulibaly in that developmental pecking order, where he was like the guy when you started that rebuild, trading away Bradley Beal in that 2023 offseason. And I'm not confident that he's going to play over 25 minutes a night next year like he has the last 3 years, especially if they draft an AJ DeBonsa, a Darren Peterson, or a Cameron Boozer. So this is a C+ right now, and he could be a change of scenery candidate in the offseason. That wouldn't shock me either. So Jarris Walker was the 8th overall pick. I'm going to give this one a C-. Now, he's 22 years old compared to Bilal's 21. I don't think he had as high of a ceiling as Bilal Coulibaly. This year, you could say definitely had some ups and downs for Jarris Walker. Now, we have seen a decent sample size of him being a good 3-point shooter. He shot 40% in his first 2 years on a limited sample size, 37% from 3 this year, 4.7 attempts a night, over 350 attempts on the season, which is definitely encouraging in Walker's game, but he's entering the last year of his rookie contract. Obviously, the Pacers weren't good this year, so none of his production really resulted in any wins. He's got an $8.4 million team option for 2027. It wouldn't shock me if Kevin Pritchard and this Pacers front office went ahead of the market and got an extension done with Walker, which looks a little shaky right now, but it ends up being worth their money in the long term. I think it could also affect what happens with the lottery. If this team drafts a Boozer or DeBonsa or a Caleb Wilson, I don't think they're going to extend Jarris Walker with them already paying big time money to Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Obi Toppin at the moment. But yeah, Walker's play individually, I'm going to give it a C-. I think I just had higher expectations for him coming into the league. Definitely been underwhelming. Now, coming in at number 9, I have a player that's already been traded, and that is Taylor Hendricks, now of the Memphis Grizzlies. He was drafted by the Utah Jazz at number 9, and then was included this year in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. I'm giving this pick right now a D, which is really unfortunate because I was so excited about Taylor Hendricks' game back in March of 2024, where yes, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but he was finally playing more. He was knocking down threes, looking more comfortable out there. And then 3 games into a promising and exciting year number 2, he ends up having a season-ending injury, and it was a gruesome leg injury. Doesn't really look like he's the same. And then after 33 games in Utah this year, he gets shipped over to Memphis, which could be good or bad for his development. We'll see. I think it really depends on his playing time next year, which is also going to come down to how this year's lottery looks like for the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm giving it a D right now because he was the 9th overall pick. There's definitely some players that were drafted after him that are a lot better long-term, but I think I'm also baking into the account his injury. It's kind of out of his control, and Utah was able to at least throw him in as maybe a sweetener in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, but he wasn't really doing the heavy lifting in terms of the assets that Memphis wanted. Because right after Taylor Hendricks was definitely a better player. I have no idea if he would have been better in any other situation than Oklahoma City, but yeah, Hendricks and Wallace is getting an A- from me, joining Brandon Miller and the Thompson twins with that grade here from the top 10 because of what he could do defensively for this OKC team. Now, yeah, if he was in Detroit, if he was in Charlotte, I don't know if he was going to be this valuable right now or really generate this many open looks. He finished 7th this year in Defensive Player of the Year voting. It gets a little bit more serious after you get out of the top 5, but he still got some DPOY votes. He was a great defender and might end up on an all-defensive team for the first time in his career. He averaged about 2 steals a night, 2.5 assists a night, 8.5 points, shot 35% from 3 in 26 minutes a night. This is somebody that's taking 7 shots a night. He's not a viable top scoring option. I wonder if he will ever be that in his career, but we know that he's going to be at least a really solid 3-and-D guy that can guard other teams' best guards every single night. And yeah, Sam Presti cooked again. This one's getting an A- from me. Like, what does this extension look like this offseason? Is it just like what Alex Caruso got a year ago from OKC? And then, yeah, the Orlando Magic had 2 first-round picks here in the lottery. They took Jed Howard at number 11. I thought at the time it was definitely a reach. They took Howard out of Michigan. Yeah, Michigan's backcourt guys did not work out in this class. We'll get to the other guy in a couple picks, but this was the last asset that they got in the Nikola Vucevic trade. We all know that they were able to land Franz Wagner in the 2021 draft from that Vucevic trade from Chicago. So we're like, okay, they're going to do it again. Bulls fans look away. This one definitely doesn't hurt as much as the Franz Wagner pick. As Jed Howard did randomly have like a 30-point game this year against the Boston Celtics, but he wasn't really a serious guy in the Magic rotation when we got to the playoffs, which feels like a trend right now. He already had his 4th-year option decline next year for $7.3 million. So yeah, he's going to be a free agent this summer, and I wonder what team he's going to be on next. I don't know if it's going to be in Orlando Orlando, they're a team that definitely has to save a little bit of money long term. He was going to make $7.5 million on this team option, which is definitely a little rich for a team that's got to worry about the salary cap. He just fell out of the rotation. He was never a consistent enough shooter for this team. I do think he's a solid like buy low option in free agency. 22 years old, has proven that he can be a good 3-point shooter. He's 6'8". Hey, it might not happen in Orlando. Maybe it's going to happen somewhere else. One team's trash, another team's treasure. So it's funny too, because my first regrade for this draft, this guy was getting like A's, and now I'm dropping it all the way down to a B-, and we're just going down until he can prove me wrong. And that is Dereck Lively of the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas ended up trading down with OKC in this spot, so OKC can move up and get Case and Wallace. And Lively was one of the best rookies from this class. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. He played 55 games in 2024 and was playing real minutes in the NBA Finals as a rookie, catching lobs, setting screens for Luka Doncic. He played about 23 minutes a night. They acquired Daniel Gafford that year. He shot 74% from the field, 8.5 points, 7 rebounds, and then his games played has just gone down each year. 36 games in 2025. His splits with Luka and his splits without Luka are very drastic from each other. And this year, he only played 7 games. He underwent season-ending foot surgery back in December, so we haven't really gotten reliable Dereck Lively play, and that's why Dallas has been kind of underwhelming at times because, yeah, they have Anthony Davis, who was injury-prone. Daniel Gafford's missed some time, and Lively has missed so much time where I'm giving this a B-, and I don't even feel great about it right now because we don't really know if he can play good basketball without Luka Doncic because we have yet to see it, and Luka was traded over a year ago. It's going to be a huge year 4 for Dereck Lively. Like what I mentioned before with Jarris Walker, maybe Masai Ujiri, the new president, tries to get ahead of the market, gives Dereck Lively an extension where you're like, that's a lot of money right now for somebody injury prone, but he comes back to what he was in his rookie season next year, and now we're saying that they got a really good deal on the margins. We'll see if all that's going to happen, but yeah, it's going to be a pivotal offseason for Dallas in terms of bringing back Lively long term, and it's going to be a pivotal year 4 if he wants to make a lot of money if there's no extension done this summer. I do a regrade in the fall of 2024. This guy's getting an A. Right now, it's a D, and that is Grady Dick of the Toronto Raptors. I've mentioned it a ton in recent videos. I do think he's going to be a change of scenery candidate this offseason. It makes all the sense in the world. He basically fell out of the Raptors rotation in the playoffs, not playing any meaningful minutes in any of those games. Grady Dick does have his 4th-year option picked up. Unlike Jett Howard, $7.1 million in 2027. And I know Magic fans were like, oh, we could have taken Grady Dick instead of Jett Howard. And yes, that was a thing for a while. Now it doesn't look as bad as Grady Dick was just not knocking down his threes this year. I don't know if that's something with him just getting like really swole and kind of jacked. I don't know if that affects your 3-point shooting motion at all, but he's somebody that definitely needs to rework his shot here in the offseason, maybe improve his defensive play as well, because what he was in that fall of 2024 as a shot creator, a pull-up shooter, it was really encouraging for what he can be long-term for Toronto. And now he just played 14 minutes this year, down from 29 minutes in 2025. They've added guys like Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shead over the years, and there's not enough playing time to go around for Grady Dick. And like I said, I expect him to be on a new team after this offseason. And then, yeah, my second F of the lottery, Jordan Hawkins here to the New Orleans Pelicans. I did not think this was going to be an F. I thought he was one of the more high floor prospects coming out of UConn, fresh off a national championship in 2023. It's kind of been the opposite. Now, Hawkins has suffered some unfortunate injuries. It just hasn't had great luck with that side of the game. And the Pelicans have also kind of been a disaster since they drafted him. They were a solid team in 2024. They lose to OKC in round 1 of the playoffs, where I thought, okay, Hawkins can help you out right away. Like, he's NBA ready from day 1. And then year 2, everybody gets hurt in New Orleans. This year he gets hurt and the Pelicans weren't great. They've also brought in a lot of new names like Sadiq Bey, Jeremiah Fears, DeJounte Murray, just guys, and like Jordan Poole that are going to eat into his minutes every single night. He also just hasn't been a good 3-point shooter for where you expected him to be coming out of UConn, because in that 2024 season with the Huskies, where he was like a main starter, he shot 38% from 3 on over 280 attempts, and he's been shooting about 34% from 3 at the NBA level. He's also terrible finishing around the rim or anything inside the 3-point line. This is another change of scenery candidate this offseason. I don't think he's going to end up in New Orleans. So yeah, we have back-to-back Fs here. At 15, the Atlanta Hawks selected Kobe Buffkin, one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I really enjoyed watching him in Michigan in that 2023 season, where Buffkin looked like a crafty scorer at the point guard position. position that could also be a solid facilitator. I just thought he was going to be a good combo guard at the next level. He averaged 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, shot 48% from the field, 35.5% from three, and 85% from the free throw line for the Wolverines that year. But I didn't really like it when Atlanta took him because they had Trae Young at the time. They had DeJounte Murray. I'm like, there's never going to be a clear path for this guy to play serious minutes. They brought in like Bogdanovic and some other guys that it was just going to make it tough for Buffkin. Now, Buffkin is another guy that just had really unfortunate injury luck. He's only played 43 games. He only played 27 games in his few years in Atlanta. He ended up getting picked up by the LA Lakers this season, where he appeared a little bit for them. He's not really in their playoff rotation because he got waived back in April after signing a contract with them in January. And he's not the last like first round pick from this year's draft class that the Lakers took a chance on. I guess it makes it look a little bit worse when you see Keontae George go one pick later at number 16 to the Utah Jazz, a pick that I was definitely questioning at the time because of his positional fit at the NBA level. Is he going to be a 1? Is he going to be a 2? Now, he definitely blew me away as a point guard. I did not think he was going to be a point guard with his decision making in 2023 at Baylor, but he really broke out this year, not only as a point guard, but now as a just full-on high efficiency shot creator. Now, the defense isn't great, right? Like, the defense is definitely something to worry about, and I wonder how Utah attacks this offseason with that liability in Keontae George's game, but it's impossible not to give this an A. Now, I don't think anybody's in that Wemby tier, and I do think Keontae George is pretty much in the same tier of guys like Brandon Miller, the Thompson twins, Hendricks and Wallace, but the fact that they got this talent at 16 gives it a little bit better of a grade than what those guys got. So I'm giving it my first actual A in this video, with Wemby being at that A+. George this year could have won most improved if he played 65 games. He shot 45% from the field, up from 39% from the field the previous 2 years. That was a knock on George's game too, because he was very inefficient at some times. He went up from 34% from three to 37% from three, 44% on twos to 51% on twos, which was key. And then he went to the free throw line 7 times a night, which is a great sign in a rising young scorer. 89% from the free throw line as well, 23 points, 6 assists, 3.5 rebounds. He's a great offensive talent at 22. I don't think he's going to get the rookie max this offseason. Like, I think Wemby gets the rookie max. Everybody else is going to get a little bit under the max, but I expect George to get just as much as the Thompson twins, Miller, and anybody else up there. So we're going to go from one of the best picks in this draft to one of the worst picks in this draft, and that is going to be Jalen Hood-Schifino to the Los Angeles Lakers, somebody that hasn't played in the NBA all year long. He didn't get his third-year team option picked up, which is crazy for a first-round pick. They did not like what they saw in 2024. He appeared in 21 games, and they didn't pick up that option. He played 2 games in 2025 before being featured in one of the biggest trades in NBA history. He was traded to Utah in that Luka Doncic trade, and then he was waived by the Jazz 4 days later. The Sixers picked him up about a month later on a two-way when the Sixers needed anybody to play for them for their injury-riddled 2025 season, and is also just completely out of basketball right now. He's not even playing for a G League team or overseas. So yeah, this pick is definitely an F. Rob Pelinka hasn't really done the greatest job. There's Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka really hasn't done the greatest job drafting ever since they picked up like Austin Reeves as an undrafted free agent. Like, Hood-Schifino hasn't worked out or didn't work out. Dalton Connect really hasn't worked out either. They haven't really hit on many second round picks like Maxwell Lewis. Adu Thero was hurt this year. Bronny James might be something long term, but yeah, Pelinka really saved his job from that Luka trade. And it makes this pick look so much worse given who went after him. Jaime Hawkins, who was playing there in Southern California at UCLA. He was somebody that could step in and was NBA ready to go help out LeBron James and Anthony Davis at the time. He's coming off a season for the UCLA Bruins where he was a senior at 21 years old, and he averaged 18 points, 8 rebounds, and shot 48% from the field. Now, I didn't expect Jaime Hawkins to be a good three-point shooter coming into the NBA, and he hasn't been, but he's been such a good slasher, driver, somebody that can cut and finish around the rim. This year, he finished runner-up in 6th Man of the Year voting. He averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. He shot 50% from the field. I was not high on Jaime Hawkins this year because I was like, you know what, he's already a little bit older. We're getting towards the end of that rookie contract. He's going to come off the bench. They have a lot of wings there in Miami. No, he was one of the best players on the Miami Heat this year. You could say he was the 3rd best player on the Heat this year after Bam Adebayo and maybe first half Norman Powell. And I think Miami's going to try to lock up an extension within this offseason because they gave Nikola Jovic $15 million a year. Jaime Hawkins should definitely be making $15 million a year. So yeah, I'm giving this one an A-. I don't think he's as good as Hawkins, but I think he's right there. I'm going to go B+, but if you want to give it an A-, I'm fine with it. I'm giving Brandon Podziemski a positive grade here. I know he's a meme guy right now. I know that Warriors fans hold him to a really high standard, but he was the 19th overall pick, and he's been such a good rotational guard for them, where this year he averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He took the most shots he's ever had in his career, 10.5 a night. Hey, he shot 45% from the field, 37% from three, 80% from the free throw line, and 53% on twos. He played all 82 games this year for a very injury-riddled Golden State Warriors roster. And this is an amazing pick, getting somebody like this late in the draft. So I'm giving it a B+, but if you want to give it an A-, that's fine with me. So this guy coming in at number 20, Cam Whitmore, I thought was going to go as high as like 4 or 5 on the night of the draft. And if you watched my live stream way back when in 2023, we were all talking like, what did he do? What went wrong here? We later learned it was the medicals, and teams were definitely not as high on Cam Whitmore as kind of like the media was or everybody online was. And then he ends up getting traded to the Washington Wizards this offseason, or this past offseason in 2025, after spending 2 years in Houston, where he was basically the same player in Houston as he was in Nova. A good scorer, shaky three-point shooter, and it's not going to pass the basketball. He's going to have tunnel vision. He's not really a team player at all, and that stayed the same in Washington, where he actually got benched by one of the worst teams in the league in Brian Keefe, and then he had season-ending shoulder surgery back in January. He does have his team option picked up for 2027 because it's so cheap at $5.5 million, since he was the 20th overall pick in the draft. But like I said earlier about Bilal Coulibaly, I don't think Cam Whitmore is really going to have that many opportunities next year in the Wizards rotation unless he changes up his game. He's still 21 years old. He definitely still can. And then at 21, Noah Clowney goes to the Brooklyn Nets out of Alabama. They had back-to-back picks. This was definitely the better of the two. I was high on Noah Clowney this year. Was a little disappointed. I thought he was going to be a really good three-point shooter. He took 6 attempts a night. He shot 32% on those 6 attempts. He shot under 40% from the field for somebody that is a 6'10 big. He shot 50% on twos, 49% effective field goal percentage, 12 points, 4 rebounds for the tanking Brooklyn Nets this year. He played 66 games. Like, he's 21 years old. If he could just get his shot right, this could be such a valuable floor spacing big man, because the Nets definitely need one next to their non-floor spacing big man of Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe. I'd like to see him still work out in Brooklyn. I'm definitely way more iffy about it right now than I was a year ago. And yeah, they just kind of whiffed on the pick right after. Dariq Whitehead, I thought he was going to be a really good Brooklyn Net, because he was such a good three-point shooter for Duke coming into the NBA, and I thought this was a steal. He was a highly touted recruit as well. He was actually the #1 recruit in the 2022 class, and he averaged about 8 points for Duke that year in 2023, but he shot 43% from three. And I'm like, this guy's going to translate extremely well to the next level. He ends up playing just 22 games in his first 2 years in Brooklyn. Then they ended up waiving him right before this year started. He got picked up by the Thunder a couple days later, then waived by the Thunder the next day. He signed a 10-day with Memphis in April. He even finished up the season on April 12th, shooting 52% from the field, getting 26 points against the Houston Rockets in their 31-point loss. He's still just 21 years old. I just thought he was going to be a way better shooter than this. Chris Murray was the 23rd overall pick to the Portland Trailblazers, the brother of Keegan Murray. And this year I actually thought Chris Murray showed some flashes as a real role player that can come off the bench. Now, I would like for him to be a better three-point shooter. He's been really underwhelming as a three-point shooter in this league, just 25% from three so far in his first 3 years. And he shot, hey, like 34% from three in his final year at Iowa in 2023, 6 points, 3.5 rebounds. He's on the older side at 25 years old. I think he's just like a fine wing role player that could probably play like 10 or 12 minutes a night next year for Portland still. I wanted the Sacramento Kings to have a really big 2023 offseason, and in hindsight, it was a terrible offseason after their light the beam season. They ended up trading their first round pick to get off of some money in Rashawn Holmes' contract to Dallas. Dallas selects Olivier Maxence Prosper, the swing forward out of Marquette, who I really liked at the time. He didn't really work out in Dallas at all. He ended up playing 92 games across 2 years, but really struggled to be a mainstay in Jason Kidd's rotation. He ended up spending the 2026 season with the Memphis Grizzlies after getting waived by Dallas back in August, just 2 years into his career. He was actually a solid player this year for Memphis. He played 53 games, 24 starts, 55% from the field, 40% from three, 10 points a night. I'm giving this pick a D because maybe he's going to work out for Memphis long-term. We'll see if they bring him back. I got back-to-back C's here in the Central Division. 25 out of Houston, Marcus Sasser to the Detroit Pistons. Somebody that I wish would play a little bit more, but he's on the smaller side as a guard. Dennis Jenkins definitely lapped him this year as an offensive player. I thought in his first 2 years, though, Sasser was pretty good. I thought he was really good for the 6-seeded Pistons in 2025. Didn't play as much here in 2026 and was injured as well. I still think he could be like a solid point of attack defender, good three-point shooter, like Javon Carter-esque. And then maybe this is a little bit generous to give Ben Shepherd a C here, but I think he's gone really good value for Indiana with the 26th overall pick. He's even played some solid minutes in the playoffs before, like playing 20 minutes a night on average, basically basically as a rookie in the 2024 playoffs and even played some notable minutes in the 2025 playoffs as well. This year, he averaged 7 points across 65 games, shot 36% from three. I would have liked for him to have a little bit more volume this year with all the injuries in Indiana, but I still think he could be in the rotation next year. Nick Smith Jr. goes to the Charlotte Hornets with the 27th overall pick. I really like Nick Smith coming out of Arkansas. He never really worked out in Charlotte. He was just way too inefficient around the rim. 35% on twos as a rookie. 45% on twos in 2025. He got picked up by the Lakers this year, and he might actually be part of the Lakers' long-term plans because he ended up getting a standard contract from the Lakers, which is a 2-year deal, but it's not fully guaranteed for next year's season. He ended up shooting the ball pretty well from three this year, 39% on 3 attempts tonight. He might be a regular season rotational guard for the Lakers next year. I doubt he's a playoff guy though. And yeah, some like C's and D's there because we're going to have some solid grades at 28 and 29. Bryce Sensabaugh to the Jazz at 28. He fell in this draft out of Ohio State because of some medical concerns. I'm giving this a B. Maybe Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be just like a higher efficiency Cam Whitmore. He's not going to play great defense. He's not going to pass the ball, but this man can score. He shot 42% from three as a sophomore, 37% from three this year on 6 attempts a night. He averaged 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 75 games for the tanking Jazz. Like if you remember, they were trying to lose games this year, specifically against the Miami Heat, where they benched Jaren Jackson Jr. and Larry Markin for the 4th quarter, and Sensabaugh was able to help them win the game because this guy is actually way too good for a tank. He's still 22 years old. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the roster next year. They might draft a wing in this class highly. They have Cody Williams. They have Triple J. They have Ace Bailey. So there's a lot of mouths to feed right now in Utah. Sensabaugh could be the odd man out, but if he gets moved, I think he could also be a nice change of scenery guy and could play in the playoffs next year for a team in their rotation. But for how little he's making being this late of a pick, they might as well keep him. And then I'm going to go slightly a little bit lower here with a B- to Julian Strawther, who I think has definitely exceeded his value with the 29th overall pick. I do wish that Denver played him a little bit more. They haven't really trusted him in the playoffs over the last 2 years, but I do think he could be a really good floor spacing guard in this league. He's 24 years old, a little bit on the older side coming out of Gonzaga in this class, but he shot 38% from three this year, 46% from the field in 57 games. Sometimes it's garbage time, sometimes it's legitimate minutes. This team is going to have to make some cost-cutting decisions in the offseason, so they might need Julian Strawther in the rotation next year because he's only making $4.8 million. And then the last first-round pick here in this draft, Kobe Brown to the Los Angeles Clippers. It's getting an F. I didn't like the pick at the time. It hasn't really aged the best. He was included in the Ivica Zubac trade and actually played some all-right basketball this year for the tanking Indiana Pacers in the second half, but he's been basically a career 3 points, 3 rebounds guy. He struggled from three. He struggled around the basket. Maybe he's actually going to be in the rotation. The Pacers feel like they take failed first round picks and turn their careers around like they did with Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, Aaron Nesmith in a way. And maybe that's going to be the case for Kobe Brown, but right now I do have to give it an F. And this second round really hasn't aged the best, but there has been some solid players in the second round. You have Jordan Walsh at 38 to the Boston Celtics, Mohamed Gay at 39 to the Sissoko was part of the Blazers rotation this year at 44. G.G. Jackson to the Memphis Grizzlies at 45. Toumani Camara, definitely the best second round pick here, 52 to the Phoenix Suns, and then they traded him to the Portland Trail Blazers. There's also some notable names in the second round, like Amari Bailey, who's trying to go back to college right now, and then you also have Amani Bates, who was once the best recruit in this class. So yeah, that's gonna be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. Let me know if you want to see another regrade from any other draft class, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.